Good evening. Namaste. The divine within me recognizes and honors the divine within you. We come together here tonight with eyes that see as God sees, for that is the truth of our being. So I invite you to sit back and to open your being and allow that spirit, that truth of who and what you are to flow unobstructedly through and as you, bringing to you everything that you could desire, all that you need. For that's what consciousness does. So we're here to immerse in the light and the high consciousness. We'll start with 3 gongs, which will help us stop from our busy day and come into the now. For God and all its glory is right here in the now. So let's go together. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday night. Isn't it a gorgeous moon out there tonight? Did you get to see it? It's so big. Reminds me of E.T. You know, I'm waiting for E.T. to go by on it. It's so big. And you know, the moon is an interesting thing because the moon has no light of its own. The moon is a reflection of the light. And I've always loved that analogy as I think about that's who and what we are, that we are these physical vessels, but what we really are is 100% reflection of the light of God. That's who we are. That's what we stand as. I mean, our very being, all that we are is that light and reflection and that beauty. And sometimes we're so much like the moon because sometimes, you know, you can only see a quarter of us. There's sometimes it feels like there's part covering us up, our light, or so that we're not getting that light fully, but that's not the truth because it's always a full moon that's out there. We're always in our fullness, if you will. We're always available for that full reflection. It just depends on the perception from which you're looking at it from. So the moon is a really neat analogy for us. But we're talking tonight, we're actually on the journey of the Way of Mastery. The Way of Mastery is a book by the Shanti Christo Foundation. It kind of is like the next evolution past the Course in Miracles. It's a fabulous book from the standpoint that in our teaching, it is kind of a beautiful combination of all of the great teachings. It's a combination of, like the Course in Miracles, Ernest Holmes and the Science of Mind, the Tao, our Eckhart Tolle and the Power of Now, Abraham and in its fullness, and Ptah, and it's really this beautiful combination. And what I love about it is that it's really precise. You can turn to a page and you can open it up, and it doesn't take long into your reading where it moves you into that contemplative place. But not only just a contemplative place, but a higher space of feeling good. So we're working with that all year long, actually, on the Wednesday night service and allowing it to take us to all the different places. We're talking tonight about Lesson 5, which is the keys to the kingdom. There's actually 35 lessons or chapters in it divided into 3 sections. And so tonight we're talking about Lesson 5. But we're also starting a discussion group class, which starts on Monday. It's a 6-week class, and we're going to be talking about the first 12 chapters. So each week we'll address 2 chapters. And we're planning it. It's pretty exciting to have a lot of discussion. Reverend Rick and I are doing this together. There's going to be a lot of discussion. There's going to be some experiential in it. And if you can't make all the classes, that's fine, because each chapter stands alone anyway. So anytime that you might want to drop in, we're going to do it all year long until we get through all 35 chapters. So I invite you to be part of that. I invite you to be reading the book. I haven't met anyone yet that isn't like super excited about what they're finding in this book. So that's what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about the keys to the kingdom. And this chapter It actually is what we call in this teaching pretty absolute, meaning that there's no black, there's no gray. It's either black or white. And what they're talking about, in our teaching, we talk so much about you're the creator of your experience, and if you want to create, we talk about all the different methods of which to create. And as in the Tao, or as in a lot of the teachings that we're looking at now, they're more focused on that life is, that God is, that perfect right action is, and that, as the Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things shall be given unto you. Or thy grace is thy sufficiency. Where this chapter is really focusing us on is moving past the creation of things, individual things, and it calls it right in it. That's not a bad thing if you want a specific parking spot or a Mercedes or more money or whatever it is. We know through the law of attraction, through all of that we can create all of those things. We have the power, and that's a very powerful place to know that you're not a victim, that through your focus and attention that we can create the things that we want. But what they're inviting us to do in this chapter is to move past the physical, move past things, and move into that space of knowing all of the magnificence that we are. Our connection to life in its fullness, connecting to the infinite. Because we do have these minds, our own individual minds, but there's only so much that we really have stored in there, and there's only so much that we've been able to make sense of, but there's an entire infinite universe, and we're utilizing probably a very small fraction of it. But we've been gifted with the instruments that allows us to comprehend and allows us to get in the flow, if you will, or in the fullness of the entire universe. And so this journey, the spiritual journey, is about not only knowing that truth, but it's about becoming a vessel, a vehicle that is unobstructed. It's about being the full moon, not just a quarter of the moon. It's about having all of our glory shine in its allness. And that's what this starts this chapter from, when it talks about being the witness. So we're looking at life and how it's unfolding. And to bring a little bit of Abraham in here, everything, 100%, everything that is in our experience, and it talks about this in the first couple chapters of this book, everything, 100%, we have called forth into our experience. It's there because some part of us is a match to it, period. And that's not meant to be bad you, what did you do? That's meant to say powerful you. And how powerful you are, that you can shift when you become aware of it, and you don't take the victim stance, but you become aware of it. You can shift who and what you are and call forth new things into your experience. But we must take responsibility for it. So as Abraham says, that we are the creators, nothing can be inserted into our experience. It's impossible for anyone to insert anything into our experience. That this is a world of inclusion. We include it because it's a match. So the witness, the whole concept was raised to a higher spiritual principle of the witness, meaning if it's in our experience, that's okay. What our job is to witness that, is to accept it. It never is to resist it or fight it or be afraid of it or push it out. And instead of saying that each of our experiences, everything that comes into our experience is something that's good or bad, in the way of mastery, they talk about everything that we've called into our experience is for our good. In fact, it's a stepping stone, as they say in this book, a stepping stone on your path to your wholeness, or your path to truth, or as they call it, your path home. See, if we as humans could just give up all of this beating ourselves up and all of this trying to fix and all of this stuff of finding it's wrong, if we could relax into, as the Tao says, if we could just surrender into it, trust what is, or Byron Katie that says, love what is, offering no resistance, then it moves through our experience just as the clouds, or just as what appears to be in the way of the moon. It just moves through. It naturally will move out of the way. As we talk about in this teaching, there's one power and one presence. And that power and presence is God, life, source, and that power and presence is good. And we are, as I shared on last week in that, is what we are an extension of it. Last week we talked about a desire, and we talked about that we are the wave that wells up out of the ocean. So the ocean is God, and everything that it needs and all that God is in the ocean, and we are just a welling up of it for expression. That's its purpose, no beginning or end. We're just an expression as we well up, all of us that God is, as we well up and express our beauty, our uniqueness, and what we are come forth to express. So when they're talking about the keys to the kingdom, it talks about taking the witness stance. In Buddhism, I wanted to share with you the witness. The witness/observer is basically a persona within you that is not identifying with what is going on. I know you all have experienced it. I know you all have sat outside yourself and watched what you've said to yourself or what's been going on around you, and we've all observed it. It is just noticing what's happening. Its response is always one of curiosity. Another part of your mind might be judging or labeling the experience, the favorite one being, this is bad. But the witness observer perceives everything from the premise of allowing and trusting in a good universe. It's an open mental stance, not closed or contracted. In Buddhism, developing the witness observer is the foundational piece of their teaching. To be able to stand and look at life, knowing that it's not bad, it can't harm us, and to be able to go ahead and flow with it and not have to fix it and change it and make it different, knowing that we do have that power of our intention and our desire to be able to recreate our outside world as we create our inside world. So as the Bible said, thy grace is thy sufficiency, what they are saying is bring our full awareness and our full desire and our full commitment to know the highest possibility of our being, which we call God or source. The highest possibility is that in God is infinite peace, infinite love, infinite joy, infinite perfect right action. That is our highest possibility. So when we come forth with our desires, we come forth to be the very best, the utmost that we can possibly be. It starts with a paragraph that I wanted to share with you that says, Peace then be with you always. Let peace pervade your being at all times. Know that you are safe in the love of God that arises from that great source of mystery and would move through you with every breath you breathe and every word you speak until you hear only the impetus of guidance that wells up from the depth of your being as a gentle voice that you trust completely, and you know the freedom that you seek. It is there. The peace is there in its fullness. And you can ask yourself at any time, because if you've ever stopped yourself and gone within, you've experienced it. It's there, it was always there, it's always available. But as we bring our attention to it, we experience it. So we look at this journey, and they're talking in this chapter, the keys to the kingdom, that there's 4 main steps. With the first step being the one we spoke about last week, the step of desire. And he calls desire the liquid of life. And as we talked last week, using the analogy that as a rose, it is the liquid of life that flows up through the rose bush that creates the blossom. It is desire. There's absolutely nothing in creation that didn't first have a desire behind it. Somewhere, somehow, there was a desire, because it's the impetus, it's the action, it's the volition that calls forth all things. Everything has had a desire first that's come through it. So he's calling it the liquid of life. And so as we said, you could desire something physical, a car, a house, or a lover, or whatever those are. Or we could seek ye first the kingdom. We could desire to have a full, unobstructed connection with the divine. We could desire to no longer have that sense of separation or to know the truth of who we are. We could desire to remember in, through, and as all circumstances and all things that there's a power and presence that we can rely on. We can desire to know that all things work out for the greatest good. We can desire to know that thy grace, which is the activity of God, grace is the activity of God, thy grace is my sufficiency. And then we can bypass all the steps along the way, because feeling good is feeling God, and one connected with God, all things change. I had an experience with that this week as I was having some challenges with just some differences with a friend of mine. And this is a friend that's been a friend for 45 years, but we really are kind of opposite kind of people in all of our beliefs and everything, but we have this common thread that is very strong and very powerful that makes us friends. And so something had come up where we had the difference of opinion, and I was thinking about, gosh, how do I handle this? What do I do with this? Do I set her down and talk to her, or what exactly do I do? And so I had some counseling with a counselor, and I was a practitioner, and I was talking about it and thinking about it, and I went, oh yes, I'd forgotten. Oh yes. What we do, what's reflected on the outside, always, 100% of the time, is a reflection of what's going on the inside. I don't need to fix the outside. I don't need to fix any of those kinds of things. What I need to do is go back to connection, go back to my connection with Source, remember the truth, become one more time that full vibration of love to the best of my ability to know and trust all that's unfolding and all that's happening, and my outside world changes. And it was amazing, and we need to remember when we use these principles and they work. It was amazing. After I remembered that and got help with that and remembered that, I went, that's right. And literally within about 12 hours, I received a phone call from this individual, and it was like nothing was really going on. It was wonderful. We were just in our vein of good again. And it was like, we never have to change the outside. We always change the inside, because the inside is so powerful. It changes our whole magnetic field outside. It changes everything that happens to us in our outside world. And so our desire is the elixir of life, is the flow of life, is to know God, to be connected to Source, to be that place that is love overflowing. That's what I want. That is my desire. And become connected with that. And then we set the intention. The step 2 in the pathway is intention. And I loved what he said about this. He said, intention is, if you will, it's the boat that carries the elixir of desire that moves and touches every cell of our body, every part of our intellect, and carries us to our emotions and all of it. If you will, that it's that intention which is a commitment to keep our focus on that which we want and not that which we don't want. The world is powerful. You know, it pulls us in all these different directions. We hear the news, we have friends, we have our old belief systems, we have all kinds of things that can pull us in wrong directions. We just think wrong, we forget. But intention is the discipline to choose to see the light, to choose to remember these principles, to choose the intention, the discipline to keep our mind on God, on grace, on good, on all that's unfolding that is perfect. And so we have the desire. We ask each and every day, what do I want? What do I want? I want to know God. I want to be the best I can. I want to be what I was created to be. And my intention and my discipline is to catch myself when I am off and come back and remember. And then we step into the third step that they talk about in this chapter, and that's the allowing. Allowing what is. I'll share with you a comment that I had on that. Allowance is not a passive acceptance of things as they are, but recognition that there is something quite beautiful at work. There is intelligence, a love that knows you better than you know yourself, and is presenting you moment by moment with jewels, gems, and blessings and lessons. That something is weaving the tapestry of your life, and nothing is happening by accident. Allowance means you must finally submit to something beyond your intellect. So allowing is allowing what is unfolding, trusting and knowing that that's part of the tapestry. I love that visual. It's the tapestry of our life. It's the Creator itself that is creating, and it is the Creator that is weaving our life, which is always leading to a higher expression, always leading to a greater yet to be. And then so we just allow what is unfolding and what's happening, which means allowing means offering no resistance, not fighting it, not pushing against it, but saying, this is in my experience, no big deal. There's something here that's powerful. There's something here that's unfolding. I have one commitment, and that is to keep my eyes open and to feel. And allow my eyes and my feelings to activate my intuition to guide me on my steps. That's what we allow. Abraham puts it, instead of putting your canoe in the stream and turning it upstream and rowing like crazy, let go of the oars, allow the current to turn it around and take you through life. And it does all the self-correcting along the way. The fourth step is surrender. And people get misconceived ideas of what surrender is, meaning thinking that surrender is non-power, is giving up. But the truth is that when we surrender, what it really means is that we're listening, we're not resisting. We surrender to the fight. We surrender the fight. We surrender my will. So it means that we're literally trusting that it's all unfolding perfectly, and we're surrendering to that higher power, that higher truth, or that higher knowing. We're also surrendering because we're giving up that aspect that we have to do it all myself, but that we are in a loving world. We are in a loving embrace that is guiding and leading us perfectly. So surrender never is about non-action. In fact, from that surrendered state, what that really means is that you've given up your ego and your will, and you're stepping into that place where you're allowing and you're in the flow of God. Surrender means giving up your oars. And so we step into the infinite with our desires and ask what we want, and we allow the infinite to speak to us. We stand in that place of intention, where it means we have the discipline to choose. We allow it to unfold, trusting that it's all part of the tapestry of our life, and a greater intelligence is weaving this tapestry. And then we surrender, giving our own will and allowing the will of God to take over. And we do all of this with great humility. They said in the book, in humility, it says, humility, stop and ask, did I create myself? Do you know how to give birth to a star? Do you know how to give birth to a leaf on a tree? Do you even know how to lift your hand from your leg? In a state of divine ignorance, you will allow yourself to be open enough to have the infinite revealed to you. Out of grand emptiness, you will discover perfect peace. So humility is realizing that of myself I can do nothing. You think about that in the Bible and you think that's a powerless kind of place to be. But what we're really doing is we're getting out of my will and that limitedness, and in humility we're stepping into the infinite. Because there's an intelligence that's doing all of this. There's an intelligence that's birthing stars, that's creating full moons, that's flowers and animals and babies and all of this. And as the Bible said, why would we be left alone? If all is being fed and sheltered, then there's an intelligence that runs through us. And so if we can have the humility, instead of saying, I did this and I did this and I myself am having to do this so that others approve of me, so that others like me. If we were just be in that humility and say, the Father and I are one. Those that see me see that which created me. And if we can stay in truth, and if we can stay in integrity with who we are, and if we can express that fearlessly, and we could give the credit to that infinite intelligence that is moving through and as us, because we've surrendered to it. We know that we couldn't possibly have done all of this ourselves. So we surrender to that higher power and that higher knowing, and we allow it to utilize us and use us, and we become the place where all of its good can flow through unobstructedly. And we land in a place of appreciation. Because our eyesight is no longer narrow, but our eyesight is wide and big. And it's from that place of appreciation that every part of our being opens. Our heart opens. Our mind opens. And when we are open, there's room to allow the good in. So as he talks about the keys to the kingdom, I'm going to share with you again the statement. He says, peace then be with you always. Let peace pervade your being at all times. Know that you are safe in the love of God that arises from that great source of mystery. That great source of mystery, and that would move through you with every breath you breathe and every word you speak, until you hear only the impetus of guidance that wells up. It wells up from the depth of your being as a gentle voice that you trust completely. And then you will know the freedom that you seek. For we say yes to life, that you're willing to let the fullness of it wash through you and carry you into an ever-deepening understanding and comprehension of all that God is. Thy grace is thy sufficiency. It's all already here. The intelligence, the wisdom, what we do next and how we do it is already written, is already done. For the divine is making the tapestry of your life. It knows what directions to go and how to use it. And it comes forth as that well, or if you will, that wave up from the ocean to be a beautiful expression of the good that is God. And it knows how to do it through and as you. So we trust in that higher power, that infinite, that wisdom. We follow the steps, knowing that each step leads us to a greater expression of wholeness. We fill our being with desire as we open up to the infinite that's out there of possibilities. We use our discipline of intention to keep our focus on that which we want to be focused on. We let go of the oars and we allow the divine to guide and lead us. And we surrender the fight and the belief that we have to do it ourselves. And we allow the Spirit and its volition and power to do the work. That's the keys to the kingdom. And so it's with that, why don't we turn within together as we take a big breath and we let go. Let go of this life and this worries and all of that consumes our mind. For it's in the stillness that we can leave the chatter behind. It's in the stillness that we activate our ears to hear that still small voice. It's in the stillness that we surrender our busyness to the stillness and the allness and the quietness that is God. And so it's with this that I give great thanks for this truth, knowing that it is already within each and every one of us. It's just the simply remembering, the refocusing, the redirecting our attention that allows us to be those vessels that are just a little bit less obstructed to the whole. And so I just give great thanks, and so it is. Amen. May you always feel the embrace of God. May your heart radiate with love and light. May you know that your every step is guarded and guided. And may you feel, sense, and know God's amazing grace. For it is in, through, and as us, always and in always. God bless you all. Go forth in peace. Good night.